Life, like software, can be debugged, rewritten, and optimized. After 20 years of coding software, I recoded my life. That journey defined wellness for me. A calm nervous system, steady blood sugar, trust in the body, and doing what you love. This season, I'll walk you through that transformation. In future seasons, I'll be joined by guests to deepen the conversation. In this episode, I talk about being born to teach. I'm Mary Toscano, and this is Coding Wellness. After I left engineering, my life vectored in two directions. One was down the massage path, becoming a massage therapist. The other was down the nutrition path. Up to now, I've been sharing the massage side, how that unfolded. Now I want to shift over and talk about the nutrition path. But before I do, I want to take a step back and give you some background. Because producing videos and speaking on stage didn't just happen overnight. It was a slow build. And it feels like my whole life has been preparing me to teach on a larger scale. And that's what I want to talk to you about in this episode. Teaching has been part of my story from the very beginning. It literally was in my DNA. My mother earned a degree in education, and my father, an engineer, taught me the computer language Fortran when I was just 13. And on top of that, I was surrounded by great teachers. At Chelmsford High School, I had a truly great teacher, my calculus teacher, Rebecca Nordengren. She gave me such a solid foundation in math that when I got to college and took calculus, I ended up tutoring the entire class. The TA barely spoke English and no one could understand him. So I set up my desk in the classroom and one by one students came to me for help. There was actually a line. I was basically teaching the class one student at a time. That foundation I had in high school from that one great teacher is what carried me through all the math and engineering. It's amazing the impact a great teacher can have on your life. In addition to tutoring calculus my freshman year, I actually taught a college physics class. I had just taken the class the semester before. It was an engineering physics class where we learned to solve physics problems without equations, but with diagrams and conceptual reasoning. And for some reason, the teacher saw something in me. I don't know what he saw or why, but he asked me if I would teach that same class the following semester. So second semester of my freshman year, there I was teaching a class I had just taken the semester before, not as a teaching assistant, but as the actual teacher for a group of 30 students. I was getting paid, I had my own office, and stacks of paper to grade. Looking back, I still don't know how that was even allowed, but somehow it was. I remember the time the professor said he was going to come in and observe me, and I thought, okay, well, the gig's up. He's going to see I can't teach, that he made a big mistake. But he came in, sat through the class, and then wrote me this incredibly glowing review. And I just remember thinking, what? Where is this coming from? What is he seeing in me? Whatever it was the start of me being a teacher. So yeah, I was teaching right away in college. Both physics and calculus my freshman year. Then in my junior year, I went on exchange to Oregon State University and took a job tutoring the athletic teams in math and computer science. Big, huge men who would actually stomp their feet and whine when they didn't want to do their homework. They'd say, I don't want to do this. I can't do this. And I'd be like, oh no, you will do your homework. You can do this. I talked to them like they were little boys, and it worked. They did their homework, they learned, and they got confident. And the teaching just kept going. After college, at my first engineering job, part of my work was teaching upper management how to use the IBM PC. You know, the one with the massive 10 megabyte hard drive. and showing them how to navigate DOS and use spreadsheets. I remember one of the classes was full of senior executives, all grown men. And whenever someone got something right, I'd walk over and stick a gold star right on their forehead. You'd think it wouldn't matter at that level, right? But no, they wanted those stars. They fought for them. There was real competition. I had so much fun with it. When I would teach, my confidence side came out. One coworker even said it was like I became a different person. Also, around this time in my life, something unusual happened. I had what felt like a premonition of what was to come. I had read a book by Shirley MacLaine called Out on a Limb, and I got so into it, I flew down to a fancy hotel in LA for one of the weekend retreats she held after the book came out. At the retreat, she brought us into a meditation, and it was one of the deepest I'd ever experienced. She had set up this incredible sound system, so the sound vibrated through our entire bodies and took us really deep. And in that meditation, I had a very strong, very clear vision. I was at a podium teaching, speaking like an orator in front of thousands and thousands of people all around the world. Part of the talk was even about spirituality. And I remember coming out of that meditation thinking, well, that was a waste of a meditation. That's never going to happen. I was so introverted, there was no way I could imagine myself doing any kind of public speaking. So I just let it go. But then, literally a year later, I had switched jobs and my boss asked me to speak at the company's annual conference on the product I was working on. It was going to be in front of a few hundred engineers. And for the first time, that vision didn't seem so far-fetched. It wasn't what I'd seen in the meditation, but it felt like life was moving me in that direction. As part of the prep for the conference, they had us take a public speaking course. And as part of that course, they recorded a before video and an after video. I remember the before video. I was so bad. I was looking down at the ground, shuffling my feet and just mumbling, my name is Mary Toscano. I work for the engineering department, blah, blah, blah. I was so bad. But for some reason, the instructor told me I was a gifted speaker and that I was going to do really well at the conference. And I just remember thinking, what is he seeing in me? I was so scared to do that talk, I practiced all summer. It was a 45-minute presentation, and the conference was held at UCSC. I was giving it in this massive 500-seat lecture hall. I had somehow managed to get the key to the lecture hall so I could go in and practice anytime I wanted. And I did, every day, for hours. It was summer, so I could. Then I found out my fellow engineers could be a tough audience. They'd sometimes try to stump the speaker, not out of curiosity, more for jockeying for position and status. I remember being so shocked that they would actually do that, and it just made me more nervous. So I stepped up my practicing, especially for the Q&A. And then finally the day came for me to give the talk. Before the talk started, I strategically picked 4 people in different sections of the audience and told them their job was to smile at me whenever I looked their way. They really took their job seriously and gave me these huge, encouraging smiles every time I glanced at them. It worked. It didn't matter that I planted those smiles. Each time I got a smile, it calmed down my nervous system. And it was so effective that I used that strategy in future talks. Anyway, I finished the talk, and then I asked for questions. This guy raises his hand right away, and I thought, oh boy, here it comes. He's gonna tear me to shreds. I pointed to him and asked as calmly as I could, yes. And then I braced myself. And he stood up and said, "I don't have a question." And I'm thinking, oh, crap. And he says, "I just want to say this is the best talk I've been to at the conference. It was the most organized, the clearest, the best presented." And the whole auditorium starts loudly clapping and woohooing. And I was shocked. I think it was one of the best days of my life. Because that first talk was such a success, my manager asked me the next year if I would do another one at the same conference. And I said, no way. I wasn't going to give up my whole summer again. I wasn't going to put myself through that. And honestly, I didn't want to have to live up to that first one. He finally said to me, "Okay, I'll let you off the hook this time, but you have to promise me you'll go to Toastmasters and work on not being so afraid of speaking." And I said yes, because at that point, I would have promised anything to get out of it, even Toastmasters. Toastmasters is an international public speaking club that meets for 1 hour a week, and there are groups all over the world. We had one right at the company that met during lunch. Every week, we rotated roles. One of them might be running the meeting, being the Toastmaster. Other times, it could be giving a speech or evaluating a speech. There were lots of jobs, and all of them gave us practice speaking. Anyways, one of the keys to a good speech is getting vulnerable and making it personal. And as people opened up in their speeches, our club got really close. The closer we became, the more daring we got, pushing the limits of what we could do in a talk. For one of my talks, I even had a fellow member, Cece, a professional dancer, choreograph a piece for me. It was to Sammy Davis Jr.'s "I Gotta Be Me." I wouldn't call it dancing exactly. It was more like acting out the words to the song. And I performed it at the end of the speech. I am not coordinated, so I was definitely pushing boundaries. And I kept pushing those boundaries with every talk I gave. I cannot say enough good things about Toastmasters. It is such a great place to build confidence. People actually fear public speaking more than death. I stayed in Toastmasters for 8 years and even ended up winning an international speech contest. And it wasn't just Toastmasters that gave me practice speaking. During my years with the company, there was also this annual tradition. A group of brilliantly creative employees would put together these hysterical parodies of the company called the Follies. Each year had a different theme, poking fun at every department from engineering to sales. The Follies were performed on stage at the company party at the Coconut Grove here in Santa Cruz, where over 1,000 people showed up. Each show had acting, live music, and these impressive state-of-the-art video productions all woven together. One year, I even got to play the Wicked Witch in a Wizard of Oz spoof. The spotlight used in these productions was blindingly bright. So bright, I couldn't see the audience at all. All I could see was a black wall. I had to learn how to stand there, look straight into that glare, and still perform. Little did I know it was training me for the bigger audiences I'd face later on, because those stages also had the same blinding spotlights. I'll always be grateful to Doug Michaels, who founded the company with his father, for making sure these productions happened every year. Also, for encouraging people to come to my talks at the company conference. His belief in me played a huge part in helping me grow as a speaker. It gave me the courage to take creative risks. So the next time my manager asked me to speak at the annual conference, I said yes. And again, I worked on that talk all summer. But 45 minutes of technical can get boring. So I decided to push the boundaries and bring in 2 professional dancers halfway through. It was risky. I mean, who brings dancers into a technical presentation? In fact, one of my coworkers, one of the top engineers in the company, said, "Normally, Mary, I agree with you, but I don't think this is going to work." He was genuinely worried and warned me not to do it. But I had trust in the vision and complete trust in the dancers. One of the dancers was Cece, and the other was my OSU college roommate, Wendy, who flew in from Seattle. Halfway through the talk, they came in dressed as surfers, with surfboards that had the product's name written across them, and performed a dance to the Beach Boys' Catch a Wave. I wanted to visually show the audience how I felt about the product I was teaching. The audience loved it, and it woke them up. The talk was such a hit, it even got written up in a magazine. And it gave me confidence to keep taking creative risks. And I think that's when I really accepted that at my core, I am a teacher. I started noticing that anytime I was learning something new, in the back of my mind, I'd be thinking, how would I teach this? It didn't matter if I was actually going to teach it or not. I'd start planning the class in my head. I even did the same when I listened to other people give talks. I'd find myself thinking, if it were my class, how would I teach it? It was like my brain was wired to teach. But I have to say, each talk still scares me, even 30 years later when I get in front of a live audience. And I don't know if that fear will ever go away. I just feel the fear and do it anyway. Because the drive to teach and get the message out overrides the gripping fear that hits when I step on the stage. So that's the background I needed to share. Teaching has always been a part of me, woven through everything I've done. And it's the piece that made it feel so natural when I eventually stepped into teaching nutrition. So as we close off episode 8 of Coding Wellness, I want to leave you with something to reflect on. Think of a special teacher who made a lasting impact on you. If you think of one, I'd love to hear about them in the comments on Instagram or Facebook. And while you're there, I'll also be sharing a reel from when I played the Wicked Witch in our company parody, along with a clip of I Gotta Be Me talk at Toastmasters, and some photos from that surfer-themed conference talk. In the next episode, I'll take you into nutrition school. It was there that I began uncovering the mystery of what was going on with my blood sugar. Thank you for listening to Coding Wellness, created and hosted by me, Mary Toscano. I hope today's episode gave you valuable insights and inspiration for your own path. You can follow Coding Wellness on Instagram and Facebook. Please rate and review the podcast, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. This podcast is meant to be listened to in order. Each episode builds on the last. So if you're just jumping in, I encourage you to go back and start from the beginning. Take care and remember, there is extraordinary potential that lies within all of us. Each one of us has talents and gifts uniquely our own, and a place where we shine the brightest. The more we live from this place, the happier we are. And remember, life, like software, can be debugged, rewritten, and optimized. Bye for now.